Hey, how's it going, y'all? Welcome back to the Gil Podcast. This podcast is about me, Gil, and the things that I'm currently obsessed with. On today's podcast, I want to go over my trip to Atlanta to produce several podcast episodes. And I also want to talk about the trip experience, getting ready, setting up, and whatnot, and some of the pitfalls that I have experienced while doing it. I also want to talk about setting boundaries as a creator, setting boundaries not for other people, but for yourself. It's a beautiful insight that I learned from a friend, and I know y'all will definitely appreciate it. I also want to talk about some other things too, and yeah, let's jump right into it. All right, first thing first, I just flew back to Florida from Atlanta to produce a podcast for one of my clients. And it was great. We got to film 3 podcast episodes. We also had a live audience. And I flew in Friday night around 11 p.m. from Florida to Atlanta. And I set up my equipment up. I didn't really get a chance to sleep, right? So I was super excited the entire day at home. And the hardest thing for me was trying to lug everything together. I tried to go on ShareGrid, which is this platform where you can rent equipment. Nobody had some of the things that I wanted, and the people that did, they were super far away compared to where I was being stationed and where the studio was. So it was going to be really hard. So I had to buckle up and buckle down and pretty much bring all the equipment that I needed. And as far as equipment goes, I'm not sure if y'all are interested in that, but I brought 4 cameras. One Sony a7 IV, which will be the main shot, 2 Sony a7Cs, which is the close-up shot for the people podcasting, my client and her guest. And then I had one Sony a7S II as a audience shot because we had a live studio audience there, and I'll just swap into them when they were saying something. So as far as microphones, I brought 3 Shure SM7Bs, and I brought a Rode Wireless Go 2, well, 2 of them. And I had the reporter microphone handle. That way, because the podcast also had a host, we had Allison, the comedian. You can find her on Instagram at Allison Moore, and she's great. She's super funny, super cool. So she was the host for the episode. So she had a wireless mic, and she would pass it around to the audience to see if they have any questions. And it was great. It worked out really well. I had a really good time producing this podcast. So I brought really tiny tripods. That way they can fit into my suitcase, my luggage. So I brought 4 tiny tripods. I brought 2 super long XLR cables. I brought a Godox VL150 for lighting, but I did not bring a softbox or a C-stand or a light stand for it. I just brought the light. And the thing is, like, for certain things like this, I had to become Batman. I had to become a detective and put the clues together. So when I looked on the studio space's Instagram, the studio is called Posh Loft. It's located in Atlanta, and I saw her reels, her Instagram posts. I saw the posts from her clients. I didn't see a C-stand or a light. I mean, I saw light stands. I'm like, okay, for if anything, she's going to have a light stand, and I'll just use that to hold my light, to hold my video light. I also saw that she did not have any microphone arms, but I was able to rent one from her. Actually, I rent 2 just to hold up my mics. And because the thing is, I did not want to lug my equipment and carry so much unnecessary equipment. Everything that I brought, I used. Nothing was like, oh, this is just for the house. Nope, everything I brought to Atlanta, we used. And that was really fun. That was really such a great thing to experience. I had to set everything up too. That was like, it was one of those bittersweet things. Like, man, I'm really doing this on my own. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I literally have to do this on my own. Like when I flew in, I think I went out to explore the city. I got on these little scooter things. It was really fun to just ride around. And then I went to this R&B jazz bar, met some cool people. And as I'm there, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm really setting up a whole podcast by myself tomorrow. Like there's nobody else there to help. Like there's not going to be anything that anybody else can do to help me out other than just look at me confused. So I got to get there, set up, make sure everything is good and copacetic and we're operable. So the next day I woke up super early, went to the downstairs area. I went to the, what do you call that? The lounge of the hotel. There is like a big issue with this hotel. I've never been to a hotel where the breakfast was around 8 a.m. That's when it starts. Breakfast starts at 8 a.m. But the podcast is at 8. And setting up for the podcast at 8. The podcast started at 10. No, it started at 11. So I was like, I can hurry up and eat some breakfast, which will basically be my meal for the day, and be okay without being tired or weak or drained. So I luckily, it all worked out. So luckily, the hotel and the pier space were only 3 minutes away from each other. No, sorry, like 4. Don't want to over exaggerate. They're about 4 minutes away from each other in an Uber. So I lucked out with that. So I hurried up, ate like a breakfast sandwich, and then I rushed to the pier space. And the owner was like, "Oh wow, I thought you were going to be like super super late." Like I was still late. It wasn't 8 o'clock, but it was like maybe like 8:15 or something. But I got there, ate my food, and like in the Uber, and I was good all day. Because the thing is, I knew that I was not going to eat till maybe 3. And I'm lifting, moving things, shifting crap. I did not want to have to worry about eating, drinking coffee. So I drank my coffee, did what I needed to do before the show. That way I was good. And I'm glad I did that because I didn't eat until maybe 4 o'clock. Like it was around like 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock. One of my clients said, "Hey, I got you." I think it was like a sandwich, but the sandwich wasn't for me initially. It was for somebody else. And they said, "Hey, this person already ate. Hey, Gil, do you want this?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." That, luckily I didn't need it because I knew I'd be in this predicament. I knew that I probably wouldn't eat until 4 o'clock. So me sacrificing 10 minutes in the morning at 8 o'clock, being late at the studio was justified. I was like, I'm not spending any money going to no Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks to deal with traffic. I'm literally 4 minutes away. I can eat breakfast really quick. I'm so happy I did that because, man, I just can't imagine doing the things that I did. And I know that you're like, dude, you're talking about breakfast and eating for the last 5 minutes. Now I'm hungry. I'm sorry. Just telling you what happened. All right. So the setup was really quick. The owner of the studio had to dip. Her name is Christina. She had to leave. And I was like, I got to make sure that I know where everything is. I got to make sure that I know where all the outlets are. So I'm looking into the room. She's talking. She's like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing. You're a creator." She's talking. I'm like, I do not want to be rude. So I'm going to give you my full I think I literally dipped on her. Like she was talking. I literally told her, I do not want to be rude. I just want to make sure I hurry up and get this because you're leaving and you're heading to the airport to take a flight somewhere. I'm going to be working in here. I want to make sure that my time here is you. So I'm not being rude or anything. I just gotta, if we can talk and walk and work at the same time. So we did that for a bit and she ended up leaving, gave me some instructions. It was fun. Just being in that studio loft by myself was great because I knew how I was thinking about how am I going to place everything. My client already told me where she wanted the whole podcast to be, but I had to figure out where am I going to put all my equipment? How am I going to keep everything looking good and professional, sounding good and sounding professional and whatnot. And that was very interesting, but I did figure it out. Like I said, I had 4 cameras, 3 cameras on my client and her guest. So one camera on her, one wide shot, and one on the guest. And then I had the audience camera with one wide cam. And it worked. It worked out really well. Lighting was pretty good. We had a giant window light. I kind of really wish that I didn't put the window up. Like my client was like, "Hey, don't you want more lighting?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." She's like, "Why not? This is going to be great." I'm like, "No, we don't need that." She's like, "No, it's the window. We can use the you don't like natural light?" I was like, "No, I don't. Not for this setting." It just was one of those things where it's like a kid. "Hey, why don't we use this?" "Sure, whatever, fine." And after like asking for it, because it's like I don't want to have to explain why. I just want to control the room with the light. It's like, and I was like, I have so many other things going on in my head. I'm like, sure, open the blinds, and then I had to deal with the whole problem of making for how bright one side of the video is to the other later on. I'm like, see, I should have literally just told her, fuck off. No, literally. It's like every time I try to explain something, and I'm not sure if this happens to a lot of different creators, and this is why there are a lot of creators that are assholes, but they're the best because the talent always thinks that they know best. And it's irritating. It's like, hey, you're hiring me for this particular job. I've had a lot of clients in the past that would just basically treat me as if I'm doing this for the first time. Wait, I actually have a YouTube channel and I have a podcast. I've had several podcasts. You hired me because you saw my podcast. So why the heck are you all of a sudden treating me like I don't know what podcasting is? It doesn't really make sense. And it's really irritating. It bothers me sometimes where when a client speaks down onto you, where they're like, hey, so I want to use something like this. Oh, you mean this? Yeah, I want to do something really cool. Oh no, but you wouldn't know that because you don't have that much followers. Like it just bothers me when they do that. But I don't work with those type of clients because their goal is not to have a positive to dispense positive energy into the world. They're more so worried about satisfying the algorithm. They're more so worried about satisfying their pockets. And yeah, you shouldn't do anything for free. But at the same time, it's like, how about just creating and doing dope things and inspiring people? That's always cool too. And that pays dividends more so than a bunch of likes and views on social media. But hey, that's just Gil with, Gil talking, and he doesn't have that much followers. So my thoughts don't mean anything. I would never forget, I went to this podcast summit and it was a bunch of, quote unquote, famous people, famous influencers. You had a lot of YouTube automation people who create multiple YouTube channels and make millions allegedly, right? And I was giving tips to this person and I was saying, hey, this did this and that. You should try this. Hey, how about you try this? I was listening to this person's issue with creating, and the person pretty much stopped me and said, "What? Why are you telling me all this stuff? That doesn't make any sense. So you telling me to do this? If you know it all, why aren't you on the stage?" And I'm like, oh, wow, that's amazing. That's a great question. I don't really have to be on the stage to tell you what's right and what's wrong. Oh no, well, this person with 100,000 followers told me that I should be doing things like this, but you're telling me to do things like that, and you don't have not even a 1,000 followers or subscribers. I'm like, your logic is sound. It does make sense. But I'm just letting you know that this person is leading you down this path because they want you in their funnel and you end up paying. Well, I don't mind paying this person because they obviously know what they're doing if they have over 100,000 subscribers and you don't even have 1,000. So how can you tell me where to go when you don't know where to go yourself? And I'm like, wow, that as hurtful as that was, it made a whole lot of sense. But also, it made me realize that people are more concerned about the optics of how things look instead of how things really are. And they also kind of made me really sad because there were things where these creators on this stage, they were saying that was completely outdated and wrong. But then because these people have a lot of followers, a lot of engagement, have money to put on Facebook ads, and they're all over the place because that's how the algorithm works, their words are worth more. And that freaking sucked. But yeah, but just going back to my experience with in Atlanta, it was great. I'm really happy that I went. And immediately afterwards, so we did like three podcasts. We had three guests. We interviewed all three. Immediately afterwards, I got to see my friend Sandy. I've known her for years, and she's actually living in Atlanta with her girlfriend, Leah, and they have an amazing home. It was so peaceful, just hanging out with some friends and enjoying their city, having ice cream and just lounging. It was fantastic. But that was like the best part of the trip. I think the podcast was great too. Meeting some of these people that you see on the internet and you're like, oh, that's that person I saw. Great. That's cool. Now I know how they look and how they sound, then you can just kind of like carry on. Over the weekend though, I hit 100,000. That would be great. I hit 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. And that's really all thanks to y'all for continuously sending me positive messages, words of affirmation, and saying I'm doing great things. You're letting me know what I could do better. You're giving me some advice. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so it's like we got this together. Ultimately, that's what it kind of feels like. It kind of just feels like when I see the same names in the comments, like there's a person in the comment, Joe, know your Joe. It's so weird, right? You see this person's comment and you know that this person is going to leave something impactful, leave a suggestion, leave some tips, leave a comment. This person is going to leave a comment, not, hey, that's amazing. I love those. Those are great. I'm not saying don't do that, but it's just, this person saw what you did, understood what you did, understood what you're doing, and they let a thoughtful comment, a comment that is that warrants, like a video warrants these types of people, and he gets it, and it's like, I love seeing his comments. Not saying that I don't like anybody else's comments, not saying that you have to type an essay, but it's just one of those things where somebody continuously shows up for you and supports you. It's like, whoa, that's amazing. And I was telling my wife about Joe and about a few other people. Joe bought my word search book, and he had sent it to a bunch of other people, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is cool. And my wife said, she's always says, your people will always be there. They're just not around you. Like, there's so many people like me around the world. We're just all separated, and I love that. I love hearing that. So having 1,000 subscribers means that there are more people who think like me, who create like me, who have the same interests as me. And I just have to keep creating to find them. Like, I would have never found Hassan if I were not creating, if I wasn't podcasting. So those are the things that I do. Like, when I went to Atlanta, I didn't go to Atlanta for me. I went to Atlanta for us, for us as a community, as creators. I went there to experience things, and it was a great experience. Didn't want to make this too long, but I just also wanted to go over a lesson that a friend of mine told me about. My friend Jessica, she she had hit me up when I came back from Atlanta. I came back Saturday night around 11 p.m. and Sunday morning, Easter Sunday, I had to wake up around 8 a.m. to grab the keys to a photography studio. And the owner of the studio was not able to be there. So we had made arrangements for me to meet up with him somewhere so I can pick up the keys so he can do his thing. He's a bishop of a church. So Easter Sunday, I mean, he has to be there, it's a busy day. So I got to take the keys to his studio super early, but my photo shoot was noon, 12 o'clock. So I had to then rush back home, take a nap, set my alarms to wake up around 11:30 to set up the studio, meet up with the client at 12, do the photo shoot. It's a 2-hour shoot, come home around 3 o'clock, 2:30, sleep, upload files, download files, get on a Zoom. It was just a lot. And my friend Jessica, she asked me, did I even sleep when I got back from Atlanta? And the answer is yes and no. I only slept because I had to take a quick nap, because if I slept way too long, I'd probably be late for this studio shoot. I'll also be late to meet up with the photography studio owner. And I had 2 people waiting on me. So I couldn't just take a nap. And I wanted the nap, man. That nap, it felt illegal. It felt as if I took that nap, I would probably be late, more than likely. And like I had set my alarm so I would wake up I think I had set it for maybe every 1 hour and 30 minutes to wake up and then take another nap. I knew that if I didn't do that, I'd be so zoned out and dead, tired. I'd probably be super zombified, and I'll wake up fully recharged and great, but I'll feel really crappy because, hey, I let down the studio owner. He was supposed to meet up. I was supposed to meet up with him to pick up the key. Then my model will be upset because, hey, man, I was supposed to meet up with you to do the shoot and you didn't show up. That would have been really bad. So my friend Jessica was I told her something hey, after I do these shoots, my mind keeps running. I keep thinking about what videos, what podcasts I can do, what products I could come up with, what things I can write. She's like, well, you got to set up boundaries for yourself. You got to treat your ideas and your innovations as a 9 to 5. 9 o'clock in the morning, you're getting your mind ready. You're ready to go. And once you hit 5, you stop. You stop overthinking things. You stop thinking about projects you should be doing. You should have done or wrote down all the things you need to do, fantasize the things you wanted to fantasize about, and get them out the way. Because after 5, you should be worrying about, hey, getting ready for dinner, getting your thoughts getting ready for the next day, setting yourself up right. And I was like, wow, putting boundaries on yourself is insane. I never thought about that. Because normally you think about, when you hear boundaries, you're like, I'm setting boundaries for people because nobody's going to put me in a horrible predicament. No, but what about us? We kind of screw ourselves over a lot. So yeah, it's just one of those things that another creator could only understand from another creator. But all right, y'all, hope y'all enjoyed this podcast. Oh, one more story. I think I did mention that I have some casualties or issues that happened. So I have 2 stories, right? So I got off the airplane and I'm walking with my laptop bag, and I had one personal carry-on bag, a duffel bag, and my luggage at the baggage claim. That's where I was walking towards. So I'm listening to a podcast. I get kind of distracted, and I'm walking towards this sign that says baggage claim. I'm walking towards it, and then the arrow points and it says down this way. And then I get on the escalator, and I get down, and then it tells me it points to a shuttle, like these little subways, these underground subways that are in airports. I'm like, wait, hold on. Why is the baggage claim so far? That's kind of weird. Anyways, I'm just kind of distracted, a little bit tired and froggy. And I take this shuttle all the way down to baggage claim. I didn't finish reading. I didn't see the top wording up top of baggage claim. it said international baggage claim. So I really wasted maybe like 15 minutes, like running and walking to this baggage claim area. So then I had to take a shuttle. I had to leave I think it was like the south side of the airport, then get into this van, which is like a shuttle, which was outside, get in there with a bunch of people, drive to the other side of the other side of the airport. And at this time, I believe it's like 25 minutes, maybe like 30 minutes have passed since I got off the plane. And I'm not expecting to see anybody from Fort Lauderdale. I'm expecting to at least see my luggage. It's a pretty heavy luggage. So when I get to the turnstile for that says Fort Lauderdale to Atlanta, there's no luggage there. But I do see a lady who came from Fort Lauderdale with me. She was this mid-age Black woman. She had her special needs son, and she had an infant child. So she's kind of looking a little confused. And then I look at her and I say, "Hey, are you from Fort Lauderdale?" She's like, "Yeah, I am. I'm just waiting on my luggage." I was like, "Did you just get here or were you here the whole time?" She's like, "Oh no, I just got here. I was lost." And I was like, "Okay, so was I." So 0.2 seconds after speaking to her, I look up and I see baggage claim office. Well, I have never experienced this, but 1,000% sure that if I go to the baggage claim office, they'll have my luggage. They'll have it 100%. Get there, started, joking with the people, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is yours. What's in it?" Started talking about podcast production, photography, whatnot. And it was cool. So I ended up leaving that, walking out of the office, and then in the distance, in my view, was the woman from Fort Lauderdale with her special needs son and her infant child, looking dazed and confused and worried. She had a face of worry. Like if I ever worked at a store, I worked at retail for years. So when people have this worry look, you're like, they're lost. They're looking for the aisle for whatever the case was. And something is telling me, dude, just go to her and tell her the baggage claim office is right here. They're going to have your luggage. I was like, nah, I think I'm done. I think I'm done with Mr. Nice Gill. I got to worry about me. It's 11 o'clock. And no, it was like 10 something. It's 10 something, about to be 11. I gotta worry about me and get my butt to an Airbnb. Get my butt to an Uber to get to the hotel. That way I can get ready for the podcast tomorrow. So that's what I did. I walked right past the lady, acted like as if she did not exist. Left the airport, walking out of the airport, crossing the road in the airport to walk towards the rideshare area where the Uber people are. And all I heard was a weird clank, but didn't really pay attention to it. And there's a crossing guard lady said, "Excuse me, is that your camera?" I turn around. My luggage is completely open, even though that it was locked. My Sony A7C, my lenses, my Rodecaster Pro completely out on the ground in the road without me even knowing it. And it was one of those things where instantly, it's like, I know I don't want to get super spiritual. This is where I probably lose everybody. Like, "Oh, really, Gil? You really think like the universe did this? And you think that, Buddha, Allah, or whoever, or some fairy god princess did this to you?" But it's like one of those things where if you fight being yourself sometimes for selfish gain, you end up like losing. And I ended up like, not to say that I sinned against anything, like I sinned against myself. I stopped being who I was in order to be this person that I'm not. And immediately I faced the consequences. I'm not this person. I'm a very loving and giving person. And the universe, God, whomever, said, "I'm going to put you in your place, kid. You're going to know that this is not how you do things. Go back there, pick your crap up, zip up your luggage, and go back in the airport, find the lady, and point to her where the baggage office thing is." So I did that. And, everything in me is saying, this lady's probably long gone. She probably got her luggage. No, she wasn't. She was still there. At this time, it's probably elapsed 30 plus minutes since, maybe like close to 40 minutes since the plane landed, and she's still looking for her luggage with her kids. Walk up to her, hey, are you still looking for your luggage? She's like, yes, I am. I just don't know where to go. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I got lost, and did somebody take it? I was like, oh no, it's probably going to be in this office. That's where I got mine. Let me show you. I walked her to the baggage claim office, which was, it's like one of those things where like, come on, man, she didn't know, she couldn't see that. It's right behind her, man. It says baggage claim office. If you have any issues, but it's just one of those things where, come on, Gil, not everybody thinks like you. Not everybody has the same amount of life experience. And one thing I was telling myself was, this is the first time this happened to me, but that's not true. There are plenty of things in my life that has gotten me to this point where I can come to a conclusion where if my things is missing, there's an immediate answer for this problem, and it should be really close by. I forgot where I heard this, but it's like, who did I hear this from? I don't remember where I heard it. This sounds recent too, but if there's a problem in nature, the solution to the problem is right there. And that's very true with a lot of machinery. I'm a forklift mechanic, and I work on heavy industrial equipment with, hydraulics, electrical, all that other stuff. If there's ever a problem with anything, the solution is right there. Like, the answers to your problem is right there in the problem itself, or really, really close by. And yet I remember where it was, but the exact quote was the comedian Duval. Duval was saying this, where somebody had gotten sick with either poison ivy or whatever the case was. And he told them, hey, try this bush next to it, because if there's ever anything wrong in nature, the solution to that problem, the plant, the food, it's right there next to it. So yeah, that's kind of like one thing that I practice. It's just looking for the solution next to the problem anywhere. But also I can't really expect everybody to have that same life experience. And that's where, if you know better, you teach people, you share your knowledge and information. That's how we get better. And I told her, yeah, they always have these things here, even though this is my first time experiencing it. I was like, yeah, if you ever have any issues, just come to the baggage claim office and they'll take care of you. She's like, oh my gosh, thank you. I had no idea. And that was that. The other casualty that I had, another issue I had during this trip was I lost my Apple Beats headphone case. So I had these Apple Beats black headphones, and I don't know, they're just gone. I only have one ear, and but the case and I think it's like the right ear, they're gone. I don't know what happened. I did send a lost and found request to Southwest Airlines. That's the airlines that I took, and I haven't heard anything back from them. I did speak to someone there on the plane. They said, hey, just go to the lost and found. They should be able to find it and mail it to you. I also contacted the Uber drivers that I drove with during this trip, and yeah, they couldn't find anything. But yeah, just wanted to share this this random thought with y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed this podcast. If you did, please share it, like, comment. Since this is going to be on YouTube, I don't know if maybe y'all listen to it on YouTube as well, but yeah, this has been a little interesting. I'm also sharing my photography word search book. If you haven't already gotten it, grab it, check it out. I think I've said this before, either my most recent podcast episode or my Patreon, that I'm working on a podcaster / content creator word search book that's going to be really fun. And I'm really excited about that. I'm thinking maybe not do a word search, maybe do something else, something interesting. But I think the word search probably be super easy, barely an inconvenience. So we'll try that. If y'all have any ideas on something else that y'all would want me to do for y'all, maybe, I don't know, like a community live stream where we go live around a certain time, or anything I can do to help make our community better, let me know. Hope y'all enjoy this podcast. Again, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you or hear from y'all in another podcast. Bye.